Hey guys, we're going to continue talking about what we were talking about yesterday, in which we're going to continue talking about ancient Egypt. Last time that we were talking about stuff, we talked about how the Nile River floods quite a bit, and that gets off into these areas that are in green here that you can see on the screen, and that's where it's good to farm at. That's about 50 to 100 miles from the Nile River that you can see there. So that's what we talked about a lot last time. We talked about the pyramids, we talked about how those were constructed, we talked about why those were constructed first for palaces for the pharaohs after they died. And we also talked about as well how Upper Egypt is upstream, Lower Egypt is downstream, and there's a desert on both sides of the Nile. All right, let's go ahead and continue from where we left off last time. Go ahead and make a bullet and write down United Egypt's government. So make a bullet and write down United Egypt's government. So originally, there were two kingdoms in what is modern day Egypt. That was the kingdom of Upper Egypt and there was a kingdom of Lower Egypt. So they were two separate kingdoms. And eventually, those two kingdoms were united under one king. When the king of Upper Egypt, Menes, goes down to the Lower Egypt kingdom and conquers it, combining the two kingdoms. Go ahead and make a one and write down Menes, equal sign, the king of Upper Egypt. So Menes, equal sign, king of Upper Egypt. So Menes, who's the king of Upper Egypt, he takes over Lower Egypt in 3100 before Common Era. So that's when he conquers the area. And when he ends up taking over the two regions, let's actually write down when it's united. Let's go ahead and make it two. And write down united two regions, upper and lower, in 31 before Common Era. So go ahead and make a 2 and write down united two regions, upper and lower, in 3100 before Common Era. So when Menes unites two kingdoms of Upper and Lower Egypt, he combines the two crowns together that they have. You'll see down the bottom right hand corner that on the left hand side there's a white crown. That white crown is for Upper Egypt. And then this is supposed to be in red. It's in black on the picture, but this is supposed to be in red. That's the crown of Lower Egypt. And they combine those two crowns together to make the double crown, which is here in the center. So whenever you're looking at the crown for Egypt, it's a double crown. It's a combination of both the Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt crowns combined together. That gives you the double crown. And when Menes, becomes pharaoh of the area, we have to write down the pharaoh word, what that is for. So we're going to write down pharaoh and then equal sign the ruler of Egypt. So 3, pharaoh, equal sign the ruler of Egypt. So pharaoh is someone who's just the ruler of Egypt. And the pharaoh was considered to be a god, so the pharaoh is considered to be a god. So the type of government that they have in ancient Egypt is a theocracy, because in a theocracy, religion rules the government, and therefore, since in ancient Egypt the pharaoh was the head of the religion, they were also head of the country as well. So they ran both the religion and the country. Therefore, it's a theocracy type of government. So it's a theocracy for the government type. All right. So next thing to talk about here is I have some pictures for you. So you can see here we have some pictures kind of the area. So you see how there's a small kind of pyramid here in the background. And you have some designs here of viper heads on the wall. And this is inside the pyramids. You can see how there's hieroglyphics on the inside here. So you can see the hieroglyphics a little bit better right there. You can see the hieroglyphics on the inside of the pyramid. This is a picture of people in Egypt constructing the pyramids. So you see the Sphinx right there, and you see beyond the Sphinx in the background, you can see how a pyramid is being constructed. See how they kind of have a ramp that goes up it. So that's how we kind of think they constructed the pyramids. Is they built ramps and then they pushed the blocks up the ramps. You can see then the Sphinx in front of the pyramids. So you can see the Sphinx there in front of the pyramids. Once again, Sphinx lost its nose. We talked about this before, but when it rains, the rainwater gets onto the bridge of the nose, and over time it erodes the bridge of the nose and it falls off. There's another picture there of the Sphinx. So for size comparison, the three main pyramids, there's more than three main pyramids out in the area of Giza in Egypt. Giza is a city that these pyramids are in. But there's more than just these three. These are the three biggest ones of the pyramids. So you can see the tallest one is 481 feet tall. So that's the tallest one. And then the next one is 485. And the smallest one of the big three is 215. The Washington Monument, that's in Washington, D.C., that's over here. And the Washington Monument is 555 feet tall. So you can see how it's taller than pyramids. So if you go to Washington, D.C. and see the Washington Monument, that's taller than the pyramids. And the pyramids were pretty tall. Well, they were pretty much the tallest man made structures on the planet for quite a while. This was the tallest man made structure on the planet until the construction of Washington Monument. So it took quite a long time, thousands of years, before humanity built something taller than the pyramids. And the Washington Monument is constructed, I think, right after World War II is when it's finished. Or not World War II, so sorry. The Washington Monument is finished right after the Civil War. So right after the Civil War, the Washington Monument is finished. All right. Next thing, go ahead and make a bullet and write down religion. So bullet and write down religion. So we're going to talk about the religion next of the Egyptians, which is a polytheistic religion. That means that it has many gods, so there's more than one. And there's actually about 2,000 gods in ancient Egyptian mythology. Go ahead and make a one. We're going to write down polytheistic. So one polytheistic. So it is a polytheistic religion, as I said, with many gods. They do have many gods. And we'll talk about some of those gods that we have in Egypt. So the first one to talk about, go ahead and make it two. That's going to be Ra, equal sign sun god. So make a two and write down Ra, equal sign sun god. And for Ra, our sun god, you can kind of see a couple of the gods down here on the bottom. So these are the various gods. I believe Ra is the one in the center. So I believe that's supposed to be him. Three, Horus, the sky god. So three, Horus, equal sign sky god. So Horus, equal sign sky god. Horus is the guy right over here on the very left hand side. That's Horus. So he's the sky god. So one eye is bright, one eye is dark. Dark eye represents the moon, bright eye represents the sun. So basically it's supposed to represent the sun coming up in the morning is one eye, and then when the sun goes down and the moon's up, that's his left eye. And that's what it's supposed to represent. All right, next thing. Go ahead and make a three. We're gonna write down Isis equal sign mother goddess. So three. Sorry, four. Four. Isis equal sign mother goddess. So four. Isis equal sign mother goddess. Okay. So talking about the various gods, that's Horus right there on the far left. Right here, that is Set. That is Horus's uncle. To the left or to the right of them, that guy is Thoth, deity of the moon, so like moon god. Guy right here, that's Kunum. He's forget what he does, but there's Kunum. Hathor is right there. Gods of love and death. Sobek. That's the. It's like a crocodile guy. I don't think I know any more about him than that. Ra, sun god. Amen. So I got a little list down here of what each one does. So Amen, 9 is this guy right there. He's Patheth. He's a kind of a craftsman. This is Anubis. He's a god of mummification. Like sometimes kind of considered, yeah. So this kind of god of mummification. Osiris is right here. He's god of the dead, and then Isis is right there at the end. And speaking of Osiris, we probably need to write down that he's god of the dead. There it is. So go ahead and make a 5, if you would, and write down Osiris equal sign god of the dead. So 5 equal sign, or yeah, 5 Osiris equal sign god of the dead. So Osiris there, he is god of the dead. And talking about a couple things with the god of the dead there. In this picture right here that you kind of see, this is a funeral scene, and in this scene, this just kind of shows how death works in ancient Egypt. So in ancient Egyptian mythology, when you die, when you go to the afterlife, so you see right here, you got a person being walked in by Anubis. All right, and when that person gets walked in, Anubis takes your heart and he puts it on a scale. So you see a scale right here. So he takes your heart, puts it on a scale. On the other side of the scale is called a feather of truth. If your heart is heavier than the feather of truth, then this demon right here, Amit, eats your heart, and then you spend eternity in damnation. All right, that's basically how it kind of works. Or purgatory. I'm not too sure. It's one of those two words there. And if your heart is lighter than the feather of truth, then you get to go to the afterlife. So why would your heart be heavy if you had committed a lot of sin? Your heart would be light if you hadn't committed the sins. All right, so that's basically how it kind of works there. And you see Osiris over there, God of dead. All right. Next thing to talk about is mummification. Go ahead and make a 6 and write down mummification and then equal sign. Embalming and preserving the corpse to prevent it from decaying. So 6 mummification equal sign embalming and preserving the corpse to prevent it from decaying. So mummification is when you embalm and preserve the corpse to keep it from decaying. And that way it doesn't break down over time. They would take out your organs and such and put them in the various jars. So they would take out various organs and they go in various jars. Like your heart, for example, goes in the monkey jar. All right. So they would take out your organs and put them into various jars. Okay. So when a corpse gets mummified, looks like that. So that's the mummification. All right. So that's what it looks like when it's been mummified. They would put the mummifications into sarcophaguses. So you see a sarcophagus right there. Sarcophaguses were sometimes pretty elaborate, sometimes not. So sometimes they might be a little more simple. Sometimes they might be pretty elaborate, like you see there. And then the headpiece might be super elaborate. So you see these are some of the headpieces. So the headpiece there on the very left, that's the most famous of them. That's King Tut's. So that's kind of the most famous of our kings. And in here, you can see how someone is making designs inside the pyramid. So this is making designs inside the pyramid. So let's go ahead next, and we're going to make a pyramid. So we're going to talk about another social pyramid. So on your paper, and I guess if we're typing this, we probably can't make a pyramid really if we're typing it. So I suppose if you're typing this, you would just write down 1, 2, 3, 4, like we normally do. If you're doing this by paper, you'll want at least 4 lines for your pyramid. If you're typing this, you're going to use 4 lines for typing it. So on the very top of our pyramid, so we have our pyramid made. On the very top of it is going to be the royal family. So very top of your pyramid, go ahead and write down royal family. So that's like the pharaoh and the pharaoh's family. They're on the very top of the social pyramid. So for one, go ahead and write down royal family. Below the royal family, you're going to have our priest. So on the next line down below the royal family, write down priest. nobles. So write down priests and nobles for number two, right below the royal family. So for priests and nobles, there we talked about priests before. So priests are your kind of religious leaders, and your nobles are wealthy landowners. So people live on their land; they pay taxes to the noble that owns their land. Below priests and nobles, we're gonna write down merchants and artisans. So merchants and artisans. So merchants again are people that sell stuff, and they might go from town to town selling their goods. Artisans are people that make the goods. So artisans make the goods, merchants sell the goods and move the goods. So artisans make, merchants sell. And on the very bottom of our social pyramid is going to be our peasant farmers. So peasant farmers are on the very bottom. And you see over on the picture on the right hand side, you see how there's people gathering grain, and you see how people are then transporting the grain. So people gather, people then take the grain and they get the grain seeds out, or the grain parts you can eat out, I should say, and then it gets transported, as you can kind of see there. All right, that's where we're going to stop at for today.